God's chosen ones. 8 signs people recognize you are the chosen one when they know who you really are. You didn't say a word, but something about your presence made the whole room shift. They didn't know your name, but their spirit did. The stares, the nervous glances, the sudden silence. It wasn't you they were reacting to. It was the light in you. You see, when God places something eternal inside someone, the temporary world doesn't know how to respond. Some admire you, others avoid you. Some copy your words, others question your worth. But none of it is random, it's recognition. You carry something sacred, and their spirit senses it before their mind can explain it. You're not intimidating, you're anointed. You're not strange, you're spiritual. You weren't overlooked. You were hidden for such a time as this. So if people have ever stared at you for no reason, if they've copied you, questioned you, or quietly admired you from a distance, this isn't paranoia. This is prophecy unfolding. Because when the chosen walk in, everything reacts. And if you are God's chosen one, this message was written in heaven with your name on it, the recognized, from unnoticed to undeniable. The moment they knew you were chosen. They saw you but didn't understand. There's a little cafe in a town that moves too fast. But inside those fogged up windows and the smell of burnt espresso, the world slows down. Eden always sat by the corner window, alone, not because she didn't want company, but because being around people never felt like being seen. This is the way out of the night. She had one of those faces, the kind that made strangers stare a little too long, as if trying to remember where they knew her from. But they didn't know her, not really. They only recognized what she carried. She first noticed it in high school. Teachers expected more from her, even when she hadn't said a word. Girls whispered, boys stared. Adults always told her she was so mature for her age, but no one asked what that maturity had cost. It wasn't praise, it was pressure. And behind every compliment was a silent confusion. Why does she make me feel like I need to explain myself? Because Eden didn't chase attention. She carried authority. Not loud, not forced, but felt. As she sipped her coffee that morning, the usual pattern unfolded. A woman 2 tables away kept glancing up. The barista stammered when taking her order. The couple paused mid-conversation when she passed. Eden wasn't dressed flashy. She didn't say a word. But somehow her silence said more than their noise ever could. She was used to it. And yet, it still made her wonder. When do people react to me like this? Why do they either want to imitate me or avoid me? Why does it feel like my existence makes people uncomfortable? But here's the truth, a truth no one had told her yet. You don't need to speak to be heard, when heaven already spoke over your life. Eden was chosen, and so are you. You don't need to wear a crown to carry royalty. You've walked into rooms and watched conversations stop. Not because you're intimidating, but because your presence carries something eternal. It shifts the atmosphere, and they feel it, even if they can't name it. Some are drawn to it. They want your advice, your light, your voice. They ask for your opinion, echo your style, mimic your mindset. Others resent it, because when you walk in, they feel the weight of their own compromise. They see your authenticity, and it reminds them of their pretending. They sense your purity, and it confronts their performance. They don't know why they dislike you, but their soul does, because your presence exposes what their comfort tried to conceal. You didn't ask to be the mirror. You didn't ask to carry the oil. You didn't ask to be different. But God marked you, and when heaven marks you, the world can't unsee it. So when they stare, when they imitate, when they whisper or question or try to provoke something in you, Just know this. You are not being targeted. You are being recognized. Eden never asked to be seen, but being chosen means your life speaks, even in silence. And that's what was happening in that cafe. It wasn't about her looks. It wasn't about her mood. It wasn't even about her history. It was about her frequency. The woman at the other table finally got up, walked over, and said something Eden would never forget. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I feel like you understand things most people don't. Eden smiled, not because she knew what it meant, but because for the first time someone had said what she always sensed. This is where your story begins. If you've ever been misunderstood for just existing, if you've been copied, judged, praised, or excluded, and none of it made sense, let this message wash over you like rain on dry land. You weren't being ignored. You were being observed. You weren't being strained. You were being set apart. You weren't being disliked. You were being discerned. They don't know your whole story, but something in their spirit recognizes the God in you. You didn't ask for the spotlight, but heaven lit a fire in you that can't be hidden. You are the revelation that makes people wrestle with their reflection, because when the chosen one walks in, the spirit realm takes notice. And the world does too. Silent storm you didn't start, and yet the room shifted when you walked in. You never asked to be noticed. You never tried to be different. But even in your quietest moments, something about you speaks. You felt it, haven't you? That tension in the air when you walk into a room, the sudden silence, the glances exchanged behind coffee cups. You didn't say anything wrong. You didn't say anything at all. Still, something changes. They laugh a little louder when you're near, as if to prove they're unbothered. They question you for being too quiet, but their voices tremble when they ask. They look at you like you carry a secret, and maybe you do. You carry peace, and peace is powerful, because when your spirit is still, it reflects the chaos others are trying to hide, and that unnerves them. You've seen it happen again and again. In places where gossip fills the air and performance earns applause, you don't join in. You don't compete. You don't need to. You carry something they can't replicate. You walk with clarity. You move with discernment. You don't chase attention. And yet, it follows you. They'll call you arrogant, but you're just aware. They'll say you're distant, but you're just discerning. They'll say you think you're better, but really, you're just not bending. They don't understand how someone can be so still and still shake everything. You watched it unfold. A coworker suddenly grows defensive. A family member throws shade wrapped in jokes. Someone you barely know starts competing with a version of you that exists only in their own insecurity. And the strangest part? You were never trying to win. You were just being obedient. That's the weight of being chosen. You walk in authenticity, and it disturbs those addicted to illusion. You didn't start the storm, but your presence revealed it. You didn't accuse them, but your purity convicted them. Because some people aren't offended by your words, they're offended by your walk. It reminds them of everything they've compromised. And so they stare, they whisper, they keep trying to figure out what it is about you. Here's the truth they won't admit. They see it, even if they won't say it. They sense the anointing. They feel the clarity. You're not loud, but your spirit is. You carry a calm that confronts. You didn't ask for their reactions. But when you are truly marked by heaven, even your silence stirs the air. So don't shrink when the tension rises. Don't apologize when the room gets quiet. You're not the problem. You're the proof. proof that light still walks among shadows. They don't dislike you. They don't even know you. What they're reacting to is the version of themselves that your presence exposes. You are not intimidated. You are illuminated, and everything in darkness either runs or begins to tremble. John 15:18. If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. Sing 2. Eyes that follow, even when you don't speak. There's a kind of attention you never asked for. You feel it in the stillness, when someone's gaze lingers too long, when you're at the grocery store and a stranger turns their head not once, but twice, when you're walking through a hallway or sitting quietly in the back row, and yet, somehow, every eye seems to find you. It's not vanity, you're not seeking it, it just happens. At first, you thought it was coincidence. Maybe there was something on your face, maybe you looked off. You started second-guessing yourself, wondering, what is it about me that keeps drawing eyes I didn't call? But here's the truth, the kind your soul always knew but was too humble to accept. Your presence speaks even when your lips are sealed. People don't just see you, they sense you. It's not your outfit, it's not your title, it's not even your posture. It's your frequency, in your light, your inner alignment with something divine. There's a weight to you, the kind of spiritual gravity that makes people look twice, even if they don't know why. You walk into a room and the atmosphere shifts, not because you demand it, but because you carry something eternal. Heaven's mark. A vibration that exposes, heals, and awakens. Some are drawn to it, like moths to a flame. Others flinch, as if your very being touches a nerve they weren't ready to confront. Because your silence isn't empty, it's full of truth. And your presence doesn't beg to be noticed, it simply refuses to be ignored. People sense your discernment. They feel the power in your restraint. They know you see more than you say, and that unsettles them. Not because you're judging them, but because your spirit reminds them of the part of themselves they've silenced. The part that longs to be free. The part that once carried light. The part that still believes deep down that there must be more. And so they watch. Some with reverence, some with resistance, some with confusion that sounds like, there's just something about you. They'll never be able to articulate it, because spiritual weight isn't defined by words, it's felt. When your life has been refined by silence, obedience, and fire, it leaves a residue, the kind that can't be faked, the kind that can't be missed. You are magnetic, not because of charisma, but because of consecration. You were set apart, and that separation made you stand out, even when you tried to blend in. You never needed a stage to shine. Heaven made you luminous in the quiet. And that's what they see. The world looks for noise, but the spirit listens for stillness. And when you walk in, they can't help but notice the one who doesn't compete, because she already knows who she is. You are the reflection they weren't ready for, the mirror that says, there's more to you and I see it. That's why they stare. That's why they follow with their eyes. That's why they pause mid-sentence, forget what they were saying, or shift in their seats. Because something sacred walked in and their spirit recognized it. They're not staring at your appearance. They're searching for your source. And the truth is, they're not just seeing you. They're seeing the light behind you, within you, flowing through you. And no matter how much they try to pretend otherwise, they can't look away. Matthew 5:14, you are the light of the world, a city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Sig 3, the echo in their voice was you. When they repeated you, but couldn't carry what you carried. They said something yesterday and it sounded familiar. The tone, the phrasing, the idea. You tilted your head, half smiling, wondering, have I heard this before? And then it hits you. They're echoing your voice, your words, your spirit, your essence, woven into their sentences like borrowed thread. At first it feels strange. You didn't think they were listening. You didn't think they noticed. You certainly didn't expect them to repeat you. But there it is, pieces of you reflected in conversations, styles, captions, even prayers. They quote what you said in private. They mimic the way you carry yourself in public. And you realize you weren't loud, but you were heard. You weren't flashy, but you were watched. You weren't trying to teach, but your life became a lesson. It's humbling and holy, and at times heavy, because while imitation is said to be flattery, for the chosen it's confirmation. Confirmation that what you carry isn't common, that your way of thinking, moving, loving, enduring awakens something in others. A hunger, memory, a question. You've lived through fires they never saw, carried crosses they couldn't lift, walked roads so narrow only the Spirit could walk beside you. So no, they're not copying a trend, they're imitating survival. They're drawn to the grace on you even if they don't understand the cost behind it. You became the blueprint, not by force but by faith. And now your strength leaks through their decisions. Your language shows up in their leadership. Your resilience ripples through rooms you've never entered. Because when someone is truly chosen, they don't need a mic to mentor. They don't need a title to teach. They don't need a platform to be powerful. You lived it. You bled it. And now it's echoing. But here's the part no one talks about. They admire the result, but they didn't endure the refining. They replicate your light, but they never walked through your dark. They quote your confidence, but they didn't cry your prayers. They wear what looks like your crown, but they never carried your oil. And that's okay, because you didn't live it for applause. You lived it out of obedience. You didn't choose this mantle to be admired. You chose to keep going when quitting made more sense. And now your journey is speaking. Loudly, softly, eternally. You are the echo they don't even know they're repeating. And heaven is smiling because you didn't just influence, you imparted. And that's what chosen ones do. We don't chase clout. We cultivate character. We don't need credit. We carry consecration. And when they repeat your voice, remember this. They're not just echoing you. They're touching the edges of a fire they were never built to hold. 1 Corinthians 11:1. Follow my example as I follow the example of Christ. Sigmund 4. When their fear looks like curiosity. They ask questions, but it's not your answers they're seeking. At first, it sounds innocent. How did you get through that? Are you always so calm? What's your secret? They ask with tilted heads, furrowed brows, half smiles wrapped around full curiosity. But if you've walked this path long enough, you start to hear it. The tremble in their voice, the flicker in their eyes, the subtle fear behind their fascination. Because when you carry a calling that can't be explained, people start asking questions they don't really want answered. They say they're curious, but it's not your methods they want. It's your peace. They don't ask because they're ready to walk like you. They ask because they can feel what you've walked through, and it makes them uncomfortable. You've noticed it. The way some people bring up deep topics, then laugh nervously. The way they ask about God, then change the subject before you speak. The way they touch truth like it's hot metal, curious but afraid to hold it too long. They ask, "How do you always know?" But what they're really asking is, "Why do I feel seen when you're near?" Because chosen ones don't just speak answers. We reveal things. We illuminate what's been buried. We stir what's been silenced. We make denial uncomfortable. You've seen it in conversations that started light and ended heavy, in friendships that grew distant after one moment of quiet conviction, in family members who ask for your opinion but resist your discernment. They'll say they're drawn to your wisdom, but they flinch when that wisdom reflects their wounds. Because truth doesn't always comfort first. Sometimes it convicts. Sometimes it clears a path through thorns, illusions, and that's why you've always felt tension in the most ordinary moments. Not because you're dramatic, not because you're too deep, but because your very presence invites people to confront what they've been avoiding. You don't mean to unravel them. You're just living whole. And wholeness feels like confrontation to someone used to fragmentation. So they'll ask, "How do you stay grounded? How did you survive that? Why do I feel calm around you?" And you could tell them the real story. You could tell them about the midnight tears, the days you wanted to disappear, the fire you walked through when no one clapped and no one cared, the surrender, the silence, the refining. You could tell them about the cost of this clarity, but instead you smile, because you know this isn't the moment to explain the wilderness. This is the moment to witness, to plant a seed, because what they're really looking for isn't information, it's transformation, and they don't even realize that it's already begun. Your light stirred something, your walk called something out, and their spirit, even if their mind hasn't caught up, knows. You've been somewhere I'm trying to go. You didn't preach. You didn't push. You just stood in truth, and truth spoke for you. That's what chosen ones do. We answer questions with presence. We carry revelation without explanation. We walk in rooms and awaken things people forgot they buried. And when their curiosity sounds more like confusion, when their questions come with nervous laughter and uneasy eyes, just know, it's not your clarity they fear. It's their own calling beginning to speak again. And you, chosen one, are simply the mirror. Proverbs 4:7. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. 6:5. The weight of your yes. You didn't choose the spotlight, but heaven chose to shine through you. You said yes when no one was watching. You said yes when it hurt, when you didn't have the answers, when your hands were trembling and your heart felt hollow. You said yes, not because it was glamorous, but because obedience was the only language your soul knew how to speak. And that yes, that quiet, consistent, behind-the-scenes yes, it carried weight, the kind that can't be measured by applause, the kind that reshapes atmospheres. And now, they ask for your guidance. They look to you when everything feels unstable. They wait for your opinion. They need your peace. They draw from your clarity like wells that forgot their own depth. And it's beautiful, but it's also heavy, because what they don't see is what that yes cost you. They see the wisdom, not the wilderness. They see the grace, not the groaning. They seek your insight, but not your intercession. Not the hours you spent on your face, in the quiet, asking God to hold you together. They ask for your perspective. But not once did they ask about your process. And still, you pour. Still, you speak life. Still, you carry the mantle as if it were light. But you know, but You know the weight of being the one others look to, while you still have unanswered prayers of your own. You know what it means to give hope, with tears still drying on your pillow. You've walked into rooms, empty, and somehow left others full, because that's what chosen ones do. We carry overflow, even when we're leaking. We speak peace, even when we're breaking. We extend light, even when we feel the shadows creeping in. Not because we're trying to impress, but because our yes was never performance. It was covenant. Heaven heard it. That whispered yes. That I'll go even if I have to go alone. That I'll serve even if no one sees it. And that I love even if they leave again. And now they come to you for wisdom, for comfort, for direction, not realizing you had to break to hold this kind of clarity, not realizing that your advice was forged in the fire of your own obedience. But you give, because that's what chosen ones do. We don't hoard what heaven gave. We multiply it. And yes, it's exhausting. Yes, sometimes you want to disappear into the background, to not be the strong one, to not be the one who always knows what to say, to not be the blueprint. But then you remember, this was never about status. This was about assignment. This was never about being followed. This was about being faithful. You carry a voice people trust, because your silence was faithful long before your words were. You carry insight that cuts through fog, because you lived through confusion and chose clarity anyway. And now, they don't just see you, they seek you. But don't forget this, your job isn't to have all the answers. Your job is to stay aligned with the one who does. So yes, guide them, but don't forget to guard yourself and encourage them. But don't forget to rest. Give what you can, but don't bleed for people who refuse to bandage themselves. You said yes, Liza, and that yes made a way for others, but your soul matters too, because the weight of your yes is holy, and it deserves to be honored by you, by them, by heaven. Luke 12:48. To whom much is given, much will be required. The crown they didn't see coming. They saw your silence. Heaven saw your strength. It's strange how they only see it now that you're standing taller, now that your words carry weight, now that the same presence they once misunderstood commands reverence without a sound. They don't know how many nights you sat in silence, begging God to show you the reason for the rejection. They don't know how often you swallowed your questions just to preserve peace, how many times you walked away instead of defending yourself, how you made room for people who had no room for your purpose. Remember the version of you that stayed quiet. They forgot the strength it took to stay true, but now the fruit is undeniable. The seeds you planted in sorrow have begun to bloom in wisdom. The places you once stood alone are now filled with the very ones who laughed, watched, whispered. And you didn't seek revenge. You didn't curse the storm. You let God vindicate you through consistency, because you always knew the chosen are revealed not through revenge, but through resilience. This was never about proving them wrong. It was about proving him right. That yes, he really did choose you. He really did trust you. He really did walk with you through every silent valley. You passed the test no one clapped for. You stayed faithful when no one affirmed you. You became the answer to prayers others never knew how to pray. And now they see it. Not because you demanded it, but because heaven declared it. You didn't need revenge. God gave you results. You didn't need to clap back. God crowned you with clarity. You didn't need to shout. Your presence now speaks what your pain once could not. So stand tall, walk softly, love deeply, lead quietly, because the same rooms that once shrunk around your anointing are now expanding to make room for what you carry. The ones who dismissed you, some will apologize, some will imitate, some will act as if they never doubted you at all. And you'll smile, not from pride, but from peace, because you'll know they didn't recognize you before, because even you hadn't seen the fullness of what God was building yet. But now you wear what they couldn't see back then: the oil, the wisdom, the patience, the crown. And the best part, you don't need them to see it anymore, because heaven does. He didn't hear thunder, he heard peace. And that peace had a name: Jesus. God doesn't crown the loudest, he crowns the faithful. Sometimes the silence was your strongest sermon. The throne wasn't given because you performed, it was given because you endured. Vindication doesn't always look like a spotlight. Sometimes it looks like stillness that cannot be shaken. If you've ever been stared at, judged, or misunderstood, and still chose obedience, drop a comment. They didn't see it, but God did. If this message confirms something in your spirit, share it. Someone else is waiting to hear what you already carry. If you believe this mission deserves to continue and want to be part of the miracle, let God lead you to support the journey. Details in the description.